There are very few things Batman doesn't excel at, and even fewer that he just can't do at all. They do exist, however, and there's one character who can do quite a bit that Batman can't: the Joker. Here are the things that the Joker can do that Batman just can't. While there have been plenty of stories over the years where the Dark Knight employs lethal methods in his fight against crime, the idea that Batman doesn't kill people has been a pretty solid general rule in comics since 1941.
You won't kill me out of some misplaced sense of self-righteousness.
Not coincidentally, that's about as long as the Joker's been murdering people by the dozens. In Batman #1, the comic that contains the Joker's first appearance, the Clown Prince of Crime manages to murder no fewer than 12 people through a combination of poison and good old-fashioned handguns. That pretty much set the tone for the next 75 years, and even though he spent a few years focused more on bank robberies and gimmick crimes, he's more than made up for it in the years since, with an unofficial count by fans putting his body count at over 540 on-panel deaths. It's not just quantity either, with high-profile deaths like Jason Todd, the second Robin, and Sarah Essen, Jim Gordon's second wife. With all those twos, you'd think Harvey Dent was the one responsible. There's no other Gotham City villain with a body count that even comes close. And the only villains in the entire DC universe who can beat it are the cosmic threats who have wiped out entire parallel universes. Even if Batman was a killer, it's hard to believe he'd go that far. With all the childhood trauma, self-sacrifice, and violent confrontations, Batman's brain probably isn't exactly a pleasant place for a mind reader to be. Still, he's never driven someone insane just by giving them a peek inside his psyche. We know someone who has, though.
Hi.
On multiple occasions, the Martian Manhunter, the guy with all of Superman's powers, plus he can turn invisible and read your mind, has been confronted with Joker's brain. It did not go well. He could barely keep himself sane while poking around up there. Considering he can keep the entire Justice League telepathically linked at once, the fact that Joker's brain alone was so harrowing should tell you just how much his mind affects anyone who takes a peek. Crime never takes a vacation, which means that Batman doesn't either. He's so dedicated that he rarely takes a rest, even when he needs it. Super criminals, on the other hand, are free to take as many breaks as they want, assuming they're not busy paying their debt to society in an asylum that seems to be held together with spit and chicken wire. There's always somebody like the Clue Master or the Electrocutioner waiting around to take their shot, so why not? In fact, we actually know that in the comics canon, the Joker always makes sure to take a vacation once a year. The catch? According to Aztec, the Ultimate Man #6, he only goes somewhere worse than Gotham. Given the state of the DC universe in the late 90s, when Gotham was afflicted with 2 plagues and an earthquake on top of all the other regular supervillain attacks, that meant going to some pretty bad places. And when the Joker takes these little trips, Batman sees it as his responsibility to bring him back to justice. Meaning that whenever the Joker takes a vacation, Batman, by definition, has to work. Say what you will about the Joker, but at least he keeps his sidekicks alive. What, too soon? Look, we hate to say it, but Batman doesn't have a spotless track record when it comes to his sidekicks. Jason Todd had his brains bashed in. The Spoiler was tortured to death with a power drill by Black Mask. Bruce Wayne's bodyguard, Sacha Bordeaux, was shanked in prison after being framed as an accessory to murder. Even his own son Damian died, which wound up driving Batman so crazy that he tracked down Frankenstein to figure out how to bring corpses back to life. Sure, all 4 of those people came back to life eventually, but they still went through some rough stuff. But the Joker? Believe it or not, he's batting 1,000. Harley Quinn is not only alive, she's also become one of DC's most popular and marketable characters over the past couple decades, with multiple starring roles in comics that have lasted longer than the Joker's ever did. Heck, even Gaggy Gagsworthy, a sidekick who appeared in a single issue back in the 60s, is still alive somewhere out there in the multiverse. He was in comics as recently as 2009. Batman couldn't keep Robin alive, but the Joker managed to keep Gaggy around for 40 years. Of course, once in a while, the Joker remembers to be the Joker. Here's one thing you can't take away from Batman. He's massively popular. He has been since the start, propelling Detective Comics to such heights that its publisher would eventually rename their entire company DC after it. He starred in thousands of comics, a whole bunch of movies, cartoons that have been more or less constant since 1992, and even had his own breakfast cereal. The Joker, of course, is also popular, arguably the single most popular villain in the history of superhero comics. But while Detective has passed 1,000 issues, plus over 800 issues of Batman, and not to mention all those other Bat-centric titles, the Joker managed to get his only solo series canceled after just 9 issues. Of course, that was back in 1975, with a pretty different version of the character than we have today. It also just wasn't that good, probably because it's kinda difficult to get behind a remorseless homicidal maniac as a protagonist. Of course, it didn't help that Batman never appeared in it, leading the Joker to fight some random dude who got hit in the head and thought he was Sherlock Holmes. But the Joker is a proud clown. It has to sting a little bit that his only solo outing couldn't even break double digits. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Looper videos about your favorite stuff are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.